Okay, we have someone from New Jersey in the house. Hello. I used to live in New Jersey. So today we're having another edition of Tech Thursday for Parents, and we're talking about mental wellness in the digital world. So this series has all been around everything digital, how it affects us, how it affects our children, what we can do as parents to ensure that we're helping them be the best they can be during these times that we're living in. I heard something today that I thought was really profound. It was a pastor. It was a message I was listening to online, and the gentleman said that his grandson came to his church and was just walking around the church premises. And so, he's a granddad, so he's much older, obviously. You can imagine the generation. And one of his friends who was in this church building at the time looked at the little boy and said, I feel so sorry for this young man being born at such a crazy time as this. And the grandfather, who's the pastor, said, no, don't feel sorry for him. If children are born at this time, they are meant to be born at this time. It's not a mistake. It's not a matter of poor them. Oh gosh, the times that they're born in is so horrible or terrible or whatever. We need to change that narrative. It's a little bit more challenging now than it was maybe many years ago. But in our time, when we too were born, I do remember my parents talking about how things were so different. So I think it's really important to ground ourselves in that we haven't lost the plot. We aren't going through something that's never happened before. All through history, there's always been times of a lot of change and a lot of discomfort as a result of the change. But eventually things will settle down. Everybody will be able to make sense of it. And our children who are born for such a time as this will thrive. So for me, that message really resonated, and it was a reminder that if our children are born now, they're meant to be here now, they will excel, they will thrive. We, the parents, will learn what we need to learn to help them navigate these times. And I think if we come from that place and we're constantly learning, constantly willing to push ourselves and learn what we need to learn, unlearn, relearn, our children will be fine. But it starts from us as well, and as parents, the position that we take when we are leading these children into a life or into the future that seems so different. So with that said, let's jump into today's topic, which is, all right, I'm seeing a lot of hearts here, so I think that message is clearly resonating with a lot of us here. So I think we can agree that we're no longer going to say, hey, these poor children, the world is crazy, oh my goodness, how will they survive? They will be fine. And it's up to us for us to look at our toolkit as parents and figure out what we need to replace. Some tools are old. Some tools cannot be sharpened. There are some knives that after a while, you just have to throw it out. You cannot keep going to the market and saying, help me sharpen this knife. Eventually, they're going to say, madam, go and buy another knife. It's the same thing with parenting in the digital age. Let's look at our toolkit and let's figure out what we need to replace, what we need to refine, what we need to throw out, what we need to, there are some that you will polish because not all values have disappeared because we're now in the digital age. So anyway, that really was just very heavy on my heart now to share. Let's stop pretending that we're lost, because we're not lost. You are not lost. And everybody who tunes into this every week are parents who know that they want to continue to grow. So yes, some tools are old, they cannot be sharpened. And exactly, some tools are, they've expired, so let them go with the expiration date. But anyway, in talking about mental wellness in the digital world, I'm going to focus a lot on this topic, on this particular subset today before we take Q&A. Remember, this is always a sharp 30 minutes. Pick a topic, delve into it, go and apply it. Next week, we have another one. Today, I'm talking about cyber trauma. Somebody can type it in for me. Cyber trauma. We all know what trauma is. Trauma is something that happens that's that causes distress to the individual. Sometimes it's collective and sometimes it's individual. So cyber trauma is a term I came across recently, me and my research. And basically what it says is everybody is being exposed to so much online, and not everything you are seeing online or consuming online is positive or helpful. It is not. So if you are not able to turn off the trauma that you are facing consistently, you are not able to process that you're actually going through something that's shocking to your system, your mental state, your mental wellness, how are you supposed to thrive and actually, lead the life that you're supposed to? Now think about it from our children's perspective. From the time they wake up till the time they go to bed, they have content coming to them 24 hours, 7 days a week. Between online learning, going on YouTube for entertainment, video games, social media. There are so many social media channels that keep coming out. So when you think you've gotten used to one, another one comes out. So there's so much our children have a constant barrage of information, content online all the time, whether or not they go looking for it. They turn on, their internet, or they open their laptops, maybe CNN pops up or whatever news channel pops up. So they're always getting something coming into their space, and they don't always have the time to process it. So our children have a lot of access to content, but guess what? They don't have the emotional well-being, they don't have the emotional maturity to deal with the amount of content that they are seeing. So when we think about mental wellness, we think about cyber trauma. That means, is your child actually being traumatized by what they're doing and seeing online? Nobody would expose anybody in physical harm or expose them to somebody or a situation physically that would harm them. Nobody would do that knowingly. Now, when it comes to the internet and online space and social media, it is 24/7 right at your palm, at the touch of your fingertips. You're always plugged in to information that somebody else has decided to feed you with that information. Too much information. So somebody else is feeding our children with information all the time. And because we are modern parents, because we are in this day and age, let me not lie, digital is very powerful. I've grown my business 100% on digital, so I understand the value of digital. But I'm an adult who has chosen to use digital for a particular goal. I have chosen how I show up online. I have chosen what I want to consume online, why I'm consuming it, and what I want to do with that information. Your children haven't had the time yet to figure all of these things out, but yet they have so much information, so much content, and once they're on social media, guess what? They are forced to participate. They are forced to show up. So when they post something and they don't get enough likes, nobody comments, they feel somehow. It takes a knock at their self-esteem, self-confidence. The children, they're all still growing, they're all still developing. The teenagers are very fragile. And they are fragile, but at the same time, that's when our children are learning about the world. They're learning about how to show up. They're learning about their place in the world, who they are, where they are from, their interests. So if children don't yet know what's going on, they can't fully make sense of all the information that's coming at them 24/7. And then because mommy and daddy are busy, they actually don't have any real space to sit down and have deep conversations because everybody is distracted. That's another syndrome. Everybody is distracted. You're sitting down at the dinner table, you're using your phone. You're sitting down, you're supposed to be watching a movie on Netflix, you're also sending a DM or replying WhatsApp. So there's so much distraction, and you cannot do two things at the same time. I don't believe in multitasking. I believe it's a myth. And research has shown that when they look at rats who are multitasking, they realize that their brain is actually under stress and they're not doing anything properly. They're actually multi-switching. So when you're multi-switching, you are not actually dedicated to any one thing, which is why quality time as a family must be seen as quality time. If all you can give is 30 minutes, give those 30 minutes to be real quality 30 minutes. Make eye contact with your children. We spoke about this before. One of the things you need to pay attention to is your child's body language and mood when they get off their devices. So it's part of the mental wellness. Let's talk about that. What does mental wellness mean? It means how your child feels, how your child is seeing the world, the state of their mental well-being. That's what it means. So you have to start asking yourself as a parent, do this exercise. What are some of the things that can affect your child's mental wellness? So just pause and do that homework tonight. What is mental wellness? All right. What can affect mental wellness? What are the things that can challenge mental wellness? Some of it is excessive screen time. A child is not supposed to spend 10 hours a day online, right? It's not. Nobody, it's just like saying your child cannot eat 10 hours a day. They're not supposed to, right? So it's the same thing. Who says your child should have unlimited access online all the time? A lot of children are not even having the time to pause and do other things, pick up skills, read a book, practice their piano, learn sewing. There's so many other things that children could be doing. So we really have to figure out you have to ask ourselves, what can challenge my child's mental wellness? Some of it, I'm going to list some of it now, so you can take some of them down, and then you need to go home and look at your family setup and say, what can I change to ensure that my child's mental wellness is as whole as possible? We can't control the pandemic. We don't know where Mr. Corona will pack his virus and go. We don't know these things. But what we do know is that we control our home environment to a large extent. We control our attitude. We control our mind. And there are certain things we can do. So ask yourself some questions. Is your child getting adequate sleep? Because this has a big part to play with mental wellness. If your child is not getting adequate sleep, good quality rest, it's affecting their mental wellness. So your child wakes up late. Maybe your child is not going to bed on time because we know why. Maybe they have their devices in their room. And you say you don't want to seem like a tough parent. So you leave your child to go to their room with their devices. I'm currently studying the teenage brain. And it's really fascinating to find that the teenage brain is very different from children's brains and from adult brain. And this is based on research, MRI, scanning. They're scanning what's going on. And a teenager does not go to bed on time because the melatonin that's released to make you go to bed, to get you drowsy and tired, for some reason in teenagers, it's released later than for adults and for children. So already teenagers don't want to go to bed on time. Now let me add another fact to that. The blue light from our devices is made to suppress melatonin and suppress sleep. So when you combine those two things, that means there are certain children who every single night are not getting good quality sleep and are not getting the adequate amount of hours they should get for rest. So their body is not doing the repairing that it needs to do while they are supposed to be sleeping. So they wake up the next day and the cycle starts again. They wake up in the morning, the first thing they do is they grab their device. They are going onto their favorite social media channel to see who has messaged them, to share a post, to say hashtag woke up like this, whatever it is. So as soon as they wake up, they are back in that digital world, consuming, giving, pushing, reading, pinging, liking, sharing. Maybe they do that for the 1 or 2 hours quickly before they go to school. They go to school, they spend all day in school, working hard, learning. They get home, as soon as they get home, maybe it's homework, then maybe they have lesson, and then they're going to sit on this device again, probably their smartphones, and they're going to sit on these devices again all the way to maybe bedtime. So that's just one scenario of a child who's not getting the kind of rest that their brain and their body needs for them to thrive. So back to the initial question, can you ask yourself, what are some of the things that could be affecting my child's mental wellness? So that is one: excessive screen time, not getting enough sleep, and don't ignore the connection between not getting enough sleep and your child having their devices with them at night. Your child should turn off their device. Even in boarding schools, if your child is in boarding school anywhere in the world, your children don't have their devices 24/7. Most responsible schools will take it from them probably about 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime so that your child can start to decompress for bed. So I'm focusing on that a lot because this conversation is about Tech Thursdays. It's about technology and how it's affecting our children. So we've talked about excessive screen time. We've talked about not getting enough sleep. The third thing I want to talk about when it comes to mental wellness is what exactly is your child's internal language. Let me say that again. Your child's internal language is really important. We all have internal language. You know that little voice, maybe you want to do something new. That's the voice that will remind you that who do you think you are that you can do A, B, C, D? So your child's internal language, their internal default, plays a big part in how they see the world. Do they have a growth mindset, or do they have a fixed mindset? There's some children that you'll pick it up. Maybe they sit an exam and they don't do particularly well. And when they come home and you're asking them how their exams are, they use language like, I'm so stupid, I'm so dumb. Or they say those teachers are useless, they didn't even teach us anything. You know, those kind of children, those kind of comments, they're either putting themselves down or they are blaming everybody else except themselves. Versus a child who comes and says, you know what, that paper didn't go very well, but I think I know what happened. I think it's because I didn't study this particular topic as well as I should have. Or I can't wait to get my exam paper back so that I can really understand what went wrong. So the same situation, but two different ways of looking at that situation. So you really want to help your child clean up their internal language. Clean up their internal language. What are they saying? How do they feel when things don't go their way? Do they tend to blame themselves a lot or blame somebody else? Or do they take responsibility and say, you know what, I can learn from this and I will grow from this? But guess what? Your child's internal language many times mirrors the home environment that they're in. I'm not saying always, but many times. So when you're doing that list or writing that list of what affects your child's mental wellness, you need to sit down and ask yourself, what are you doing to contribute to your child's internal language? Are you affirming your child? Are you encouraging them regularly? Or are you the parent who says things like, does Bode have two heads? What about your sister that's always finishing her homework on time? You know, you compare, you constantly pull the child down, so they can't even build any self-esteem or confidence because they are constantly being told they're not good enough. Then they themselves have this internal, language that reminds them that they're not good enough. By the time you combine those two things, your child cannot thrive, and that starts to affect how they see themselves psychologically, mentally, and mental wellness can start being compromised because stress in life doesn't get any easier. So our children really, 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 really need to learn about their about how to manage stress, and let's all stop celebrating stress. I don't celebrate stress. Being stressed is not cute. Being stressed is not a sign that you are busier than me, therefore means you are doing better than me. Stress is not cute. We've gotten into this whole thing, I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. If you keep saying you are stressed, you will be stressed. So let's really start changing our language, the things that we're saying. How do we talk about other people? When somebody does something that you see, do you encourage? Do you congratulate? Or are you always saying, yeah, I'm sure it's because that person knows. I know their brother is his sister's brother's father's wife in that office there. That's why the person got that promotion. What is your language? Because that's what your child is listening to, and that's what your child is, just inheriting and absorbing. So we've spoken quite a bit about a few things, and I'll summarize very quickly, and then if you have any questions at all, we can do Q&A for the last few minutes. Mental wellness in the digital world is a big topic because mental wellness, first of all, is a big issue. Depending on what you read and what research you look at, mental illnesses, depression, they are the leading causes of disabilities and people not thriving actually now. It's the leading cause, right? And then by the time you look at the pandemic, our children have been impacted so much. Their lives have changed so much. So there's a lot going on that they are processing. And then they are now in a digital world where they are constantly online, constantly consuming content, constantly seeing news that they shouldn't be seeing, and that's where cyber trauma comes in. Because if your child is exposed to excessive content online that is not helping them, they can't process it, it's always bad news, or they don't know how to turn off, they don't know how to shut down, they're letting it affect the way they see the world. Is adding to a lot of children's anxiety and fear. Every time you come, they're hearing a second wave, third wave, oh, the numbers are increasing. There's a lot going on. So how do we help them to reduce the amount of negative content they're seeing online? How do we help them to detach, to get offline, to do other things? Then we also spoke about internal language. What's your child's internal language? Are they constantly putting themselves down or always blaming somebody else? There are two things to watch out for. What was the third thing? There was something else I said. Who remembers? We said cyber trauma. We talked about excessive screen time. We talked about quality. I think it was quality sleep. Yes, your child needs to have good quality sleep every single night, because your body remembers what you do to it. It doesn't forget. So if you don't sleep day 1, day 2, day 3, you don't think on the weekend you can catch up. It's not like that. So you need to get into a routine where your child has a bedtime routine. Obviously, the older they get, you're not giving them a bath, but they should still have a bedtime routine. Have digital sunsets. I threw a lot of these terms around, but it's also to force us to pay attention and learn. And also, you need to go and research. Digital sunset is when your devices need to go off. So pick a time it needs to go off, and you need to enforce it. A lot of parents don't enforce these things. They say it, they forget. They themselves are on their phone, they're distracted. So let's look at all of these things. And the homework we all have is to do what? Write a list. What is mental wellness? And what do you think can affect your child's mental wellness? And it's unique to each child, because you will know your child. You know your home, you know your family, you know the setup, you know what's going on in your child's life. You know if he or she has extra stressors in their life. Maybe they're practicing for exams, or maybe they're about to write their WAEC, but we all know WAEC dates have been changed. They don't know when they're going to write it. There are a lot of things that your child could be facing that's making them quite anxious. So you need to be able to understand what that is, and whatever you need to change in this season to help them, you want to do that. So I hope with that we've been able to discuss this a little bit, how to think about mental wellness, what we can all do. We all have work to do, even we as adults. Gosh, there's so much going on. We have to guard our mental wellness. So start your day prayerfully. Try to avoid touching your phone if you can for the first 20 to 30 minutes. Wake up and just ground yourself for the day ahead. Once you enter the rabbit hole of going online, it's very difficult to actually control your own day and your narrative and what you want to achieve every single day. So start your day slowly. Don't jump into screen time immediately. Understand that your children, especially teenagers, hormonally, in terms of their development, they actually don't like going to bed early. So by the time you now add blue light, which is what's emitted from all these devices, that also suppresses their desire to go to bed. So it's like a double whammy. And then your children don't get enough sleep, and the cycle just continues. There's no way there can be any mental wellness if we don't do something to teach them how to self-regulate so that they are ready for the future. All right. Do we have any questions at all? As always, this video will be shared as a replay, and so you can watch it again and pick up any tips. If you want, I'm not sure I introduced myself at the beginning. My name is Yeti Williams, founder, LagosMums, parenting coach, abundant living coach for moms as well. And Tech Thursdays happens every Thursday, 7 to 7:30, where we discuss. I bring you a new topic, so don't think you've heard it before. Every week I go through a lot of work to make sure that what I bring, there has to be something new you will hear that I can be sure you haven't heard before. So that's part of how we keep this exciting. And thank you for people who've been tuning in, week out, and you send me messages, DM. Some of your questions help me also research things that can help us with our parenting as well. So with that, we've come to the end of today's session, but I'll stay for a little bit. If you have any questions, let me know. Hey, Febisola, you're here again. Yes, I can't wait to meet you in person. You've been consistent. Thank you for always coming back. That really gladdens my heart when I see you always tuning in. Okay, so let me just see. I don't think there were any questions at all. It was more just comments. You are all good students, because I'm seeing, especially parenting community. I need to find you. You are like a good note taker. everything we were saying, you were jotting it down. So thanks for being so engaged. So of course, you can follow us at LagosMums on Instagram and Facebook for more information on parenting in the digital age. And if you want to get in touch with me at all for coaching, for doing a parenting plan, figuring out your screen time challenges in your family, and how do you create your own family well-being plan, digital well-being plan, slide into my DM. I'll be happy to help you. Thank you for your kind words, Febisola. Thanks. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Short and sharp. Another Thursday. Have a lovely weekend coming up. And I will see you by God's grace next week, Thursday. Bye-bye now. Take care.